Is there objection? Without objection.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, nobody in our country should ever be above the law. Certainly not powerful people who believe that they can perpetrate crimes on victims and get away with it because they have so much wealth and so many lawyers and so many friends in high places. If you go outside the doors of the Senate chamber to my right and you continue straight ahead and you go out the second set of doors, the steps of the Capitol, you're looking straight across at the Supreme Court. And while scaffolding is up right now, making it hard to see the words that are engraved above those pillars are those words, equal justice under law. Powerful words, a powerful vision that all Americans are subject to the law. There's no special get-out-of-jail-free card under that vision for the powerful. But all too often, the combination of reams of well-paid lawyers and a whole lot of friends ready to help you, the powerful commit crimes and get away from it. We should aspire to the vision that is there above the Supreme Court, that vision of equal justice under law, that no politician, no celebrity, no mega millionaire or billionaire can buy their way out of justice when they commit crimes, and particularly not crimes that involve life-altering damage, crimes in which people are killed, crimes in which people are mutilated, crimes in which people are raped. No matter how powerful someone is, they need to be prosecuted when they commit these crimes. And the American people have a right to know what information the government is suppressing to protect these individuals. So this brings us to the conversation of the Epstein files. There's only one right answer: complete and total disclosure. That's the only pathway to justice. We have a lot of suspicions across this country about what is contained in those files hidden in the Department of Justice, those files that are hidden in the Department of the Treasury. My colleague, Senator Wyden, on the Finance Committee, has been working on this for years. I heard an objection from across the aisle. Why are you interested now? Well, Senator Wyden has been leading this search to understand what went on. There's $1 billion of money that was transferred. Thousands of transfers that were ignored by key banks that would have painted a portrait of criminal empire in motion. And yet somehow, none of those transfers triggered the attention that they merited. So here's what we know. We know that Epstein ran a massive network of sex trafficking of young girls to powerful men. Now, we don't know the who's are in terms of those powerful men, and there may be many names in the files, the Epstein files, that involve people who had nothing to do with those crimes. They may simply be friends in a network. They may have been business associates in some other legitimate way. But some of them may well be these powerful men who raped young girls. So those folks who were not part of that shouldn't be objecting to the release of the files, because the files will simply show that they had nothing to do with those crimes against young women. But the folks who were the perpetrators, whose names might be in that file, right now I can guarantee you, they're working the system of every high friend across this country, every mega millionaire and billionaire who participated in these violent acts on the innocent young, and they're trying to make sure this information never comes out. And so far, they have succeeded. And that is wrong. Several of my colleagues are preparing to speak to this, and Senator Durbin I'm looking to see that he's here, yes he is going to speak to it next. My colleague from across the aisle is here to respond to a request to hear and vote on a bill that will tell the Department of Justice, you must release these files. Transparency must happen. Now, why did I write this bill? I wrote this bill because the Attorney General said, we don't have legal permission to release the information. So let's give her the legal permission to release this information. In fact, let's pass a law right now, today, here in the Senate that says you not only have permission to release the Epstein files, but we are passing a law saying you must release the Epstein files with the names of the victims redacted to protect them. So, as if in legislative session, and notwithstanding Rule 22, I ask unanimous consent that the Committee on Judiciary be discharged and the Senate proceed to immediate consideration of Senate Bill 2557. Further, the bill be considered read a third time and passed, and the motion to reconsider be considered made and laid upon the table.
Is there objection?
Mr. President.
I recognize the Majority Whip.
Thank you, Mr. President. Reserving the right to object, Senate Republicans included a provision to address this very issue in an appropriation bill that Democrats blocked earlier this week. This issue would have been addressed here on the United States Senate floor, yet Senate Democrats came to the floor and objected to what was in this bill having to do appropriations and dealing with the funding of the government of the United States. And the shutdown Democrats who want to shut down the government did exactly, they objected to the appropriations bill that addressed this very item. That's what happened. And what's really happening today, we're here on a Saturday morning in August, on the floor of the United States Senate, and why are we here? We are here because Democrats are still trying to distract from the unprecedented obstruction of President Trump's well-qualified nominees. As of this morning, there are still 154 qualified nominees awaiting confirmation in the United States Senate. Many have been approved in committee with Democrat support, bipartisan support, in many cases strong bipartisan support. These are not controversial individuals, but patriotic Americans patiently waiting for their opportunity to serve our nation. So far this year, Democrats have allowed exactly zero nominees to be confirmed by voice vote. This is a drastic departure from the norms and the traditions of the United States Senate. It's very different from how Republicans treated Democrat nominees when we were in the minority in 2021. We would continue to work with the other side to reach a fair agreement to end this blockade. I'm hopeful that an agreement is within reach, and I objected to this exact legislation 4 days ago. Nothing has changed since Senator Merkley brought this to the floor 4 days ago, other than we continue to be here with an obstruction, a historic obstruction, by the Democrats of President Trump's qualified nominees, and therefore, Mr. President, I object.
The objection is heard.
My colleague has come to the floor.
I recognize the senator from Oregon.
Thank you. My colleague's come to the floor and said that there is a provision in a bill, but would he yield to a question about that provision? He will not, because he has just left the floor, because he doesn't want to answer the question. But I invite him to come back, because the provision he's talking about does not require the release of the Epstein files. Not at all. And so he's come to the floor and he said, Democrats blocked a provision, and he won't tell you what I'm telling you right now, that provision does not require the release of the Epstein files. So it is misrepresenting the situation. And you saw him change the topic. Why change the topic from this topic? Americans have been very clear that they want these files released. This is the bill that will do it, And I yield to my colleague from Illinois.